Any fan of the Game of Thrones series can appreciate that the characters have a secure communication problem. Secret messages being intercepted is a frequent plot point, as is apparent in the following scene from Season 7.
Who's that for?
Jon Snow.
Did you read it?
It's a sealed scroll for the King in the North.
What's it say?
Nothing good.
Clearly, Daenerys and Jon Snow of Winterfell, the King in the North, are having trouble keeping their messages private. What can they do about it, and what can the modern system of SSL/TLS encryption offer them? As a quick primer, SSL, or Secure Socket Layer Encryption, also known as TLS, or Transport Layer Security Encryption, describes the standard which we depend on to know not only that we are accessing the official website of our choice, but that our traffic with said website cannot be spied upon. How does it work? It uses a public key cryptography system based upon the RSA algorithm. Don't worry if you're not familiar with this concept. This video is not very technical, and is certainly not about math. It's enough to know that the RSA algorithm can encrypt and decrypt messages using two formulae that are inverses of one another. Messages are encrypted into codes, and then back again into their original form, using three well-chosen keys, D, E, and N. More on this later. Compliance with the TLS standard is advertised with the designation of secure in your browser bar as so. This video is for people who are loosely familiar with the concept and practice of TLS website encryption, and are curious about the high-level mechanics of how it works. Let's think about how TLS encryption works, and how Daenerys and the King in the North could use it to keep their communication private. Currently, if Daenerys sends a message to King Snow, any number of people can potentially intercept it. As a result, Daenerys is inhibited in her ability to send high-stakes content. In this status quo, Daenerys is the equivalent of a web user visiting an unencrypted website. She can tell this is the case because Winterfell.com is currently HTTP. Here's how our two characters can coordinate so that Daenerys and Snow can communicate securely. The first step in the TLS encryption system is called the handshake. Snow initiates the handshake process by bundling up the following two things. Number one, an unlocked padlock to which only he has the key, and number two, he makes sure to include strong evidence that the padlock is coming from him, which we'll assume is a variety of seals and signatures. He sends this bundle to Daenerys by Raven, but holds on to his key. In doing so, Snow is metaphorically sending Daenerys his SSL/TLS certificate, just as Facebook.com does to your browser when you visit it. Let's drill into this metaphor a little bit further. We are saying that a website's TLS certificate is analogous to an unlocked padlock to which you don't have the key, and a seal of authenticity. The unlocked padlock part of the analogy ties back to the RSA algorithm, wherein a message M is encrypted to become code C using exponent E and public key N. E and N are included in the TLS certificate, thereby giving Daenerys' browser the tools to encrypt a message back to Snow. Continuing the handshake process, upon receipt of Snow's bundle of goods, Daenerys may consult the most impartial third party she can find, let's say Tycho from the Iron Bank of Bravos, to confirm the authenticity of the Stark seal. In the TLS system, this step is the equivalent of Daenerys typing https Winterfell.com into her browser. Her browser would then confirm the authenticity of the associated TLS certificate by comparing it with an existing library of root certificates, and come back with the designation of secure or not secure as so. Let's say for our plotline that it comes back as secure. Satisfied that the padlock is authentic, Daenerys initiates the second step in the TLS process, the unique cipher. Daenerys commissions her metallurgist to craft two unique keys, one for herself and one for Snow, and one associated padlock. Daenerys then completes the process by enclosing her newly forged padlock and one of the two associated keys inside of a box, locked using Snow's padlock. She can now send him the bundle, confident that only Snow can access her newly forged key or cipher. In a browser, This is analogous to Daenerys encrypting her cipher using the RSA algorithm. Her message M is encrypted to become code C using the public encryption parameters Snow sent her, namely exponent E and public key N. She then sends Snow her encrypted message. Upon receipt of Daenerys' envoy, Snow can easily unlock/decrypt it using his private key. On the server hosting Winterfell.com, Snow uses the reverse RSA algorithm formula to decrypt code C back to message M using his private exponent D. Now that Snow has the unique key and padlock that Daenerys created, Snow and Daenerys can send padlocked content back and forth securely, knowing that only the two of them have the keys to unlock it. By analogy, Winterfell.com has successfully been TLS encrypted, and Daenerys can browse its contents safely, knowing that no third party can spy on her session. As may or may not be obvious so far, the real challenge to the modern TLS encryption system is actually not the encryption part, but rather the authentication part. When Daenerys visits Winterfell.com in her browser, how does Daenerys know that someone isn't impersonating Snow in an attempt to perform a, quote, man-in-the-middle attack? Using Game of Thrones analogies, Peter Baelish could falsify the Stark seal and attempt to convince Daenerys to exchange ciphers with him, thereby intercepting her messages to Snow. He could further improve the charade by impersonating Daenerys with Snow in another TLS handshake. He can then relay their messages to one another in a convincing fraud. The most dangerous part of the fraud is that Daenerys and Snow may relax their vigilance because they know their communication is encrypted. So Nestor, from the Iron Bank of Braavos in this scenario, is performing an extremely valuable service when he authenticates that the Stark seals are the real thing. Who performs this trusted third-party authentication service for us common web users? Purveyors of this service are called certificate authorities and include GoDaddy, Symantec, formerly VeriSign, and Let's Encrypt. They coordinate with your browser to authenticate the public keys of the TLS encrypted websites you visit. To spell it out, your browser stores a library of root certificates which can confirm that the public key being disseminated by the Amazon.com you are visiting in your browser matches the public key that Amazon.com published when it initiated its TLS encryption. It bears saying, of course, that the TLS system has some weaknesses, some of them unavoidable. An important example, the system depends upon users paying close attention to the content in the URL bar. At first glance, you may not immediately spot the difference between, say, Amazon.com and Arnazon.com. TLS encryption is not intended to be an endorsement of the business practices the website engages in. A second, possibly obvious example, TLS encryption is difficult but not impossible to crack. Certainly, say, a government with a team of programmers would have little problem, for example, cracking GoDaddy's private key and thereby spoofing any website they want. With this in mind, users are of course encouraged to maintain their vigilance when browsing the web. All in all, the TLS encryption standard is a complex and powerful feat of social coordination. I hope using Game of Thrones scenarios helped liven up what could otherwise be a rather abstruse subject.